The global men's grooming market is actively abandoning cheap, utility-based products for high-end formulations that are backed by precision chemistry. This chart tracks the global men's skincare segment. Right now, the baseline valuation stands at $19.1 billion. Tracing the compound annual growth rate of 10.5% forward, the projection lands at $52.1 billion by 2036. This acceleration is tied directly to Generation Z. In just 2 years, facial skincare adoption in this demographic jumped from 42% to 68%. These younger consumers apply strict scrutiny to product ingredients. They actively reject traditional mass-market brands if the formulations lack safety transparency. Over 2/5 of men aged 18 to 34 are intentionally trading up to premium lines, specifically targeting those products with clean ingredient claims. Market expansion relies on an educated cohort demanding clinical validation. That demand dictates exactly where institutional capital is moving. Smart capital is aggressively targeting the intersection of men's care and synthetic biology. Legacy formulation methods, taking female products, adding masculine fragrances, and updating the packaging, no longer capture market share or venture funding. To compete, new entrants are deploying lab-grown active ingredients tailored specifically to male physiology, routing capital directly into molecular engineering. Biotech research carries heavy upfront costs, so this molecular engineering pairs with highly scalable manufacturing partnerships. Relying on established original equipment manufacturers allows emerging brands to deploy complex biologics without spending millions in capital expenditure to build their own production facilities. Large conglomerates recognize the threat from these agile startups and respond through aggressive mergers and acquisitions. The $52 billion grooming frontier operates strictly as a biotechnology scaling operation, demanding specialized supply chains over traditional retail models. The biochemical justification for this massive shift in the market starts with the physical structure of male tissue. This cross-section illustrates the primary structural difference. The male epidermis is roughly 25% thicker than the female equivalent. Because of this density, standard topical ingredients fail to penetrate the barrier effectively. Secondary physiological factors compound the problem. Male skin produces significantly higher levels of sebum and sweat. This excess sebum renders standard, heavy moisturizers unwearable, often triggering irritation after shaving. Repackaging female formulations is biologically flawed. The tissue requires high-concentration, targeted molecular interventions. The first biotech intervention engineered to cross this barrier uses biosynthetic signal peptides. These peptides function as biological messengers, binding to fibroblasts and instructing them to repair structural damage. This binding process yields a rapid increase in endogenous collagen and elastin synthesis. The second major active ingredient driving clinical results is polydeoxyribonucleotide, or PDRN. Extracted from salmon DNA, high-temperature refinement guarantees the purity of the PDRN, eliminating proteins that cause immunological side effects. Once applied, PDRN specifically activates adenosine A2A receptors in the skin. Looking at the clinical endpoints, this activation drives up to a 30% increase in fibroblast proliferation. A secondary clinical endpoint shows a 45% improvement in base skin hydration over a 4-week period. These lab-grown actives replace vague marketing copy with hard, measurable clinical endpoints, establishing a true competitive moat. Delivering these active ingredients through the thick male dermis without leaving a greasy residue requires an entirely different mechanism. Formulators use targeted biofermentation. To maximize ingredient penetration, it breaks down large actives into drastically smaller molecules, slipping past the skin barrier. This process also maintains an acidic pH, which helps repair the skin barrier after the microtrauma caused by shaving. To manage excess sweat and sebum, laboratories rely on microbiome engineering. Specific bacterial strains actively convert the ammonia present in male sweat into defensive antibacterial molecules. Targeted fermentation and microbiome management turn male-specific physiological challenges into triggers for skin health. Mass-producing these biologics at a global scale requires specific infrastructure. Brands integrate with specialized original design manufacturers in the supply chain. These ODM platforms offer pre-developed, clinically verified biotech formulations that brands can license and modify. During this process, brands control specific parameters, engineering non-greasy textures, and adjusting ingredient concentrations. This provides a massive speed-to-market advantage, compressing years of R&D into simple 8 to 12-week production timelines. These platforms also offer inherent sustainability by using continuous fermentation rather than conventional farming. Because lab-grown actives require only one initial plant extraction, they drastically reduce land and water use, securing the supply chain against climate disruptions. ODM platforms decouple the cost of biotech R&D from brand creation, accelerating capital deployment. Institutional investors must account for specific systemic risks before deploying capital into this space. This risk matrix highlights the primary barrier to entry: intense regulatory friction surrounding bioengineered ingredients. High-efficacy microbiome and peptide formulations legally blur the line between standard cosmetics and therapeutic drugs. This ambiguity forces regulators to demand entirely new toxicological and dermal absorption protocols, which can stall product launches. External regulatory shocks, such as upcoming global PFAS bans, will force costly industry-wide supply chain audits. The secondary systemic risk lies in the education gap regarding synthetic biology among male consumers. At baseline, roughly 61% of consumers are initially unconvinced by biotech ingredient claims. However, when brands deploy clinical education and diagnostic tools, that skepticism drops dramatically to 23%. This $52 billion projection is driven by Generation Z's demand for premiumization and the requirement for proven clinical efficacy. The distinct biological reality of male skin demands precision molecular engineering, rendering traditional marketing strategies obsolete. Scaling these biological solutions relies on integrating with agile ODM manufacturing infrastructure. The biotech men's care frontier rewards smart capital that prioritizes hard science and scalable execution over legacy branding.